So when you talk about regenerative food production, that's really a key way you deliver on that promise to protect and nourish one planet, one health. But it's definitely a business decision too. The first thing you have to think about as a business is resilience in your supply chain. And as we see more and more the effects of climate change, as we see more water scarcity, 1/3 of soils roughly worldwide are degraded, that's going to have an impact on the ability of companies like Danone to source our ingredients. So when we invest in regenerative agriculture and supply chain, we're really investing in the resilience of our supply chain.
What if the food you ate wasn't only nutritious, but also contributed to address climate change and restore biodiversity? Sounds too good to be true. Well, watch this video and discover how we can design food systems that regenerate nature, all driven by a business opportunity. We will hear from Jeanette Coombs-Lanot, the One Planet advocacy lead at Danone, about some of their climate and regenerative food production targets and how they intend to get there. But first, we'll hear from Sheena Shah, the director at Harvesting for Good East Africa, about how they are training farmers and scaling permaculture in Kenya.
Permaculture is derived from permanent agriculture, hence why the name is permaculture, so permanent agriculture. So we're designing towards a very resilient system. And it's based on ethics and principles that can be applied in many contexts around the globe. And it's a design methodology that walks you through the process of designing in harmony with a natural landscape and also with an existing community. So you're really looking at the needs of that specific landscape and community and the people around to be able to design something that's going to work for them. I think that's what makes it so unique, is that every design is very different. And for the people. So it stands out as something that works, where again, we talked a little bit about biodiversity there in the intro, and we're working towards a very robust, diverse and resilient system. I think when we look at some of the agricultural practices that we've seen, the conventional practices, we often see one crop that's a monoculture system. And that system has failed us because we're basically depleting soils and landscapes over time. There's a lack of biodiversity, and we're not holding water in the ground. And that kind of funnels through all the climatic factors that we're seeing that are resulting to really poor health in plants. And also when we look at farmers' livelihoods, when they just grow one crop and there's a pest in that whole system, we're basically seeing a failed crop for that entire season. So there's a failed livelihood there. And also, the soil health is very poor in that kind of context. And a permaculture system, we're growing for biodiversity. So we're basically mimicking nature's patterns. As I mentioned there, we're using this methodology that can be used in any context. But we are really reading the landscape, where the wind comes from, the sun comes from, and how the water flows into in that particular piece of land, and putting a design in place that will also help soil health. So when we talk about regenerative systems, we're really building soil health, and that holds water for us. We're building this life to be able to give us quality food, and just like how we feed our bodies with good food, is what we have to do with the plants. It's like we're feeding the soil. It's the very basis of very good food production. And so if we're able to use permaculture in the right kind of way, we have the toolkit in front of us, we can actually bring streams and water sources back just by planting enough trees, the right kind of plants, and see a difference in that landscape when we've used these practices from this particular toolkit. So at Harvesting for Good East Africa, we're basically working with homeowners and businesses and taking these individuals through these workshops or training from the very get-go in just improving the landscape by using some of these principles within the permaculture and biointensive farming methods. And we're seeing a lot of interest now, and young people are coming to the fold. And we talk a little bit about enterprise in there as well, like how can you create a value-added product working with a community. And so we've worked with coffee farmers and also with farmers that were growing a certain type of aloe or something that was adding value to be able to sustain a livelihood and to also give them the opportunity to take it forward, to spread the word, to say that it's actually working and then they were achieving food security by growing many different crops in one area.
So, a lot of people, when they think about circular economy, they tend to focus, sometimes even within Danone, on the materials, right? The fibers, plastics, and how to keep them in use. And that's absolutely critical. And a big part of our focus is on building this circular economy of packaging, where we're keeping paper and metal and plastic in circulation. So that's by, making sure it's 100% recyclable, reintegrating recycled material, which we're really accelerating on, and also expanding reuse models. So actually around 30% of our product volumes are already sold in reusable packaging. So we're really working to expand that. But as you mentioned earlier on the show, the circular economy is also about regenerating natural systems and building systems that do this. And when we talk about a regenerative food system, we're talking about both what's on your plate and what companies like Danone help put on your plate, and really looking at how we can create diets that can respect planetary boundaries worldwide, with more plant-based, for instance. And we're also looking, when we talk about building regenerative food systems, at how you produce your ingredients, how food is produced. And on this, we're really focusing a lot on regenerative agriculture. So you were mentioning on the show earlier how agriculture is associated with a lot of the challenges we face, like climate change, biodiversity loss, water scarcity. For Danone, agriculture represents about 2/3 of our carbon footprint and 90% of our water footprint. So it's really where a lot of our environmental impact is. But the thing is that, it can be a problem, and it can also be a solution to these challenges through regenerative practices like the ones we've been talking about, by reducing tillage, by using more cover crops. And so we've really embraced this model. In fact, we announced that we were really focusing on regenerative agriculture in 2017, just after I joined Danone. Well, after we announced our decision to really focus in on regenerative agriculture in 2017, we first focused a lot on defining what the concept was for us. So we worked with Ellen MacArthur Foundation, with other partners, and especially with WWF in France, to build a definition that's holistic, that includes first soil and how you restore and protect soil so that it can draw carbon, so that it can strengthen biodiversity, so that it can protect water. But it's also about farmers and farm workers, and really empowering this new generation that's really shifting the model of what the role of farmers in society. So it's no longer just about only providing us with food, even if that's absolutely key. It's also about, really being custodians of the land and mitigating climate change and protecting water resources. So another pillar in our strategy is really looking at how we can make sure that the model is economically viable. And I know you spoke a little bit about that earlier, and it's something we're also focusing a lot on. And the third pillar is about animals, which we believe have a fundamental place in healthy ecosystems. But we think that regenerative agriculture must also ensure strong standards of animal welfare. So we really define this concept in a holistic way. And at the same time, we started building proof of concept. So we have a number of regenerative agriculture programs around the world. We have the biggest regenerative dairy program in the US. We're on track to source 100% of locally grown ingredients in France from regenerative agriculture by 2025. And we also have programs in Mexico, in Algeria, in Romania. So we're really seeing proof of concept as well. It's a responsibility, and it's also an opportunity. I think we're building the business models of tomorrow. We're building the food system of tomorrow. So it's absolutely critical to scale, as you were saying. And of course, the thing about systems is that no one company, no matter how big it is, can drive systemic change on its own. So we're really putting collaboration at the center of our approach to bring scale. The public sector has an enormous role in shaping the agricultural systems in the world. And what's really, I'd say encouraging is that as companies like Danone, but we're certainly not the only one, there's more and more companies that are focusing on this as a model. As we're scaling, as we're ramping up regenerative agriculture programs, you have on the other side really a growing interest within the public sector in this model and how you can use regenerative agriculture to deliver on some of the climate goals, to build sustainable food systems. So we see a lot of activity both in the private and the public sector. And I think the next few years will be absolutely critical in kind of redefining the way we work together and ensuring that we're really bringing all the synergies we can in order to scale and really change the system.
So, regenerative agriculture is both a business and a societal opportunity. It's happening now, and it's all driven by designing differently from the outset. It is also a key component of a circular economy vision for food. Thank you for watching this video. We have longer conversations with both Sheena and Jeanette and much more. We will leave you the link in the description of this video. And if you want to stay tuned, please subscribe to our YouTube channel or follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook and Twitter to be notified every time we go live. And if you've really enjoyed watching this video, please click on the like button and share it with your network.